from the Bureau will do no good.
Someone else killed those policemen.
Shot with your weapon, and you will be blamed for their deaths.
Open up, it's the police.
He's right above us. There's one coming your way. People are scared. We need to get this one. Call for backup now.
It's 2005. We are at the tail end of the PS2, Xbox, GameCube generation. And the Xbox 360 just came out. This was probably the last time gaming felt really exciting. At least to me. Because there was still lots of experimentation going on. New IPs, new concepts. Budgets were still not out of control yet, like they are now. So new risky ideas were not uncommon, even from big publishers, such as Sega. And enter Condemned Criminal Origins, a new IP from Sega developed by Monolith, the same devs as Fear. The concept is extremely simple but captivating. The game is at heart a melee-focused combat game in first person and a survival horror too. If I had to describe it in very few words, I would say it's as if Doom 3 and Silent Hill had a child. Yeah, I mean, it's a bit reductive, I know, but that's the best way I can think of describing it. The story talks about a mysterious rise in crime in Metro City, and our protagonist is Ethan Thomas, an FBI agent from the SCU unit, Serial Crime Unit. He was called to a crime scene in an abandoned building due to a murder seemingly perpetrated by the matchmaker, one of the serial killers he is investigating. This killer abducts and kills young women and then puts them on display together with a male dummy. This was also the first game I can remember doing the whole crime scene investigation stuff a la CSI, although it's very linear, very scripted. At some point in the game, it will require you to perform these crime scene analysis with some forensics instruments, but without much liberty, because the game picks the right instrument for you. You just have to press a couple of buttons and the game will do everything pretty much. You just have to follow the indications on screen. These sections don't last very long and provide some needed variety and also are useful to build up atmosphere. Also, they give you some context as to what type of criminals you're dealing with and also forward the plot. The combat is simple but engaging. You can use a variety of melee weapons, each with their own stats like speed, range, damage, and block. To defend yourself, you have to press block at the right time, because you can only do so briefly. So it's more like a parry than a proper block. The more powerful melee weapons will also be required sometimes to get to the next area or to unlock some side content or extra health or weapons. You can only carry one weapon though, so that forces you to make a choice sometimes over which weapon you have to carry. There's also some fire weapons in the game, but they are quite rare and ammunition is nowhere to be found. When you use the ammo inside the magazine, it's done. You can also use such weapons as concussive tools, like proper melee weapons, briefly, but they will break after a few hits. Your other combat options include a kick to keep the enemy at distance and stun them very briefly, and a taser, which stuns enemies for longer and lets you steal their weapons as well. The taser will need to recharge, so you can't use it every 2 seconds, but it does recharge fast enough that it's still possible to use it quite often. The game is not very long. I'll say it lasts. Your first time will probably last around 10 hours. It doesn't overstay its welcome. The story and the setting is intriguing, which is definitely its biggest saving grace. So, during the first mission, you'll find yourself chasing a suspect inside the building, and that will end up causing the death of the two officers that were with you in the building. And the guy who you're following gets a hold of your gun and kills those two policemen. And from that moment on, you'll be on your own as a wanted man. During the story, you will have Rosa to assist you, who is an FBI lab technician, helping you from the forensics lab in your investigation. The other recurring character is Malcolm Van Horn, who is an old family friend that knew Ethan's parents. What makes this game unique is the way all the elements mix together. The combat, the story, the setting, the atmosphere, and the complete sense of solitude and the twistedness that permeates the whole game. The levels are full of violent psychos that want you dead, and most of the time they take place in abandoned and decadent places. The enemies range from psychos, hobos, squatters, and so on. But the further you get into the story, the more weird and fucked up they will become. Now I won't get too much into the story, only what's necessary, because I think if you haven't played it, you should, definitely. And it is kind of pointless to discuss too much the plot, the story, and how it progresses, because there will be mostly speculations. But the thing is that they revealed most of the plot points that were left vague in the sequel. So if you want to talk about all the plot points, you also have to talk about the sequel, but I'm not gonna do it now, at least. Because this game is one of those cases where a lot of the story was left unexplained, vague, on purpose. So it did create an area of mystery around it. I remember at the time there were discussions about all the possible explanations and so on, and what each aspect meant. That's also part of the game's charm, in my opinion. The sequel ruins, in my opinion, a lot of things by going over the top with some of its explanations and exposition. I mean, at least from what I remember, it's been a while since I've played the sequel. And I mean, a good example would be this series went through the same process that Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal went. Like, if you played those, you know exactly what I mean. The first game was tight, confined in terms of plot, concise. Everything didn't have like a weird or convoluted explanation. Everything was straight to the point. The gameplay was straight to the point as well. No overcomplications or mechanics that you had to like train, practice to learn, to get used to. It was very pick and play. Meanwhile, with Eternal, they went over the top with the plot. And the gameplay, they made it less immediate, less pick and play, because you actually have to practice the new mechanics a little bit to get used to it and progress through the game. So this is exactly the same thing in terms of gameplay and plot when it comes to the sequel of Condemned. But yeah, I'll talk about it probably in another video. And now, like I said, I'm gonna talk briefly about the story, because the game has two ongoing plots. The main one that sees Ethan investigating and trying to prove his innocence, but also a secondary plot that's more in the background, that is mostly delved into during the loading screens, that tries to let the player know that there's an outside influence responsible for the rise in violence and crime. And this secondary plot will be explained better in the sequel. They will actually show more of this and what's going on. Now, for the things that I don't I don't think work so well, I would say the fact that you can only carry one weapon at a time is a bit annoying. While I think it would have been better if you could have carried one melee weapon and a fire weapon, just in case, to avoid situations where you need a certain weapon to progress, but then there's also a gun lying around and you want to bring it with you, so you don't have to backtrack. And number two, the controller controls on console are fucking weird. To run, you have to keep L3 pressed. So instead of just tapping it once, like you do, for example, in COD, you have to keep it pressed. And that gets really annoying really fast. Because also the other control schemes are no better than this one. There's only 3 control schemes. And in 2 of them, there's this issue with the tapping of... actually, the pressing of L3. And the other one uses L3 to parry. So yeah, it's all the controls are not viable. So I resolved it by using a controller that has back buttons. So I'm up the L3 on a back button and call it a day, because yeah, I was not gonna play with that. But I mean, you can also play with mouse and keyboard on emulator as well, so it's not an issue in that case. I mean, it's weird though, because the developers really didn't think that this control scheme would be annoying as fuck. That's a odd choice. Third, the graphics could have been a bit better. This was a launch window game, and it's definitely top 10 worst graphics on Xbox 360, in my opinion. Because, I mean, mostly the character models. Because, like, when you see games like Silent Hill 3 on PlayStation 2, and you see the character models in that game, especially in the cutscenes, and then you take a look at the characters in this game, you wonder, how the hell is it possible? Like, it's like the characters in Condiment look like PS2 characters, while the characters in Silent Hill 3 look like 360 tier characters. It's odd. The effects, light effects, and also atmospherical, environmental effects, and the lighting are okay. You can tell they are next gen for a launch game at least. But I think with a little bit of scaling down, this game would have run on a Xbox original as well, because it really doesn't have a lot going on screen. So I think if this would have run, because if Doom 3 and Half-Life 2 were able to run on the original console, original Xbox, I think this would have been able to as well, with some toning down of the effects and some assets and maybe textures. I mean, all in all, this is a solid game. Another flaw I can think of is the FOV, field of vision. It's not very satisfying, because it seems like you're playing as a horse with your eyes covered. Sometimes it's not very high. I don't know exactly what the value is, but it's not high. It's console FOV at its worst. So it would have been nice if you could raise the FOV, but I don't think you can, even with the emulator. But I mean, all in all, the flaws are not that egregious that will prevent you from enjoying the game. Even in 2024, it's still fun and captivating, especially if you have never played it. I say give it a try. It might surprise you, because it's really an interesting game, an interesting concept. And it really sucks that there's not really an immediate, easy, hassle-free way to play this. You can only play this game on 360, Xbox 360, if you have one, emulation, or the PC version. But the PC version you have to tinker quite a bit with it. Funnily enough, the easiest way to experience this is probably with a 360 emulator, if you have a decently powerful PC. I mean, you don't have to have a NASA PC. I played it quite well with a Ryzen 5600 and a 6650 XT graphics card and 16 gigs of RAM. I was able to play it on 1440p at 30 FPS, stable for like 95% of the game. But I guess even if you have a slightly less powerful PC, you can like just lower the resolution plate on 720p and be done with it. You'll probably be able to, even with a less powerful configuration. I mean, the emulation is easy to set up. Maybe if you don't know how to do it yourself, let me know, and in the comments maybe I'll make a tutorial. But it's quite easy, nothing too complicated. And yeah, this is it. It really sucks that Sega let this series die, because they haven't even re-released the games ever again after Condemned 2 came out. Condemned 2 is not even on PC for some weird reason. So Sega completely abandoned the series, because, I mean, Sega being Sega. There were plans for a third game, but everything got scrapped. I don't know what happened. If you Google, you'll probably find the whole story. So yeah, that's it. The franchise is dead, sadly. We'll never get a Condemned 3. But I think at least the first one, it's still worth playing, because it's an interesting experience. The focus is mostly on horror. It's very grounded. There's no over-the-top stuff or cringy moments. It's a very tight and concise experience that everybody can enjoy, as long as you like horror games, of course. While the sequel, it's more hit and miss, but like I said, I will talk about it more if I get to play it again, because like I said, it's been ages since I've played it, and last time I didn't really like it that much. But who knows, maybe this time I will enjoy it more, I don't know. But yeah, this is it. So let me know what your thoughts are, if you've played, if you want to play it, if you need help on how to play it, and all that stuff. As usual, thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye bye!